Good morning. Welcome to Daily Focus. I am in First Corinthians chapter 8 and looking forward to this chapter. It teaches us a lot about leadership and a right understanding of liberty. Many times in our selfishness, we want what we want, and we want everyone else to want what we want. And many times we get our dander up and we don't want anybody telling us what to do, and certainly if somebody says that something offends them or hurts them or frustrates them, our natural response is deal with it, get over it. I've got things to do. But leadership doesn't give you that liberty, because you are about bringing people along in their spiritual walk and edifying them. And so I've entitled this one, Knowledge Puffeth Up. And there's a verse here that is really the foundation for a phrase that maybe all of us have heard. And that phrase is, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's really found in this Bible verse that we're going to look at in First Corinthians chapter 8. Verse number 1 says, "Now as touching things offered unto idols, we know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth." In other words, knowledge makes you think you know it all. It's all about you and what you know, and it tends to feed our ego. But love, charity, edifieth. It's this idea of showing love and sacrifice for other people. It's the emphasis on other people. And so where knowledge tends to put the emphasis on what you know, love is on how much you care for others, what you sacrifice for others. And so it edifies, it builds up someone else. It doesn't build up you. "And if any man think that he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing yet as he ought to know." In other words, it doesn't matter how high your IQ, if you don't know how to love, if you haven't chosen to make life about edifying those around you and helping them grow spiritually and in their understanding of God and His program, then you are just self-centered. You're just selfish, and you really don't even know anything. You don't even know enough to know that you're just selfish. And so that's the context. "But if any man love God, the same is known of him." It's about loving God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. "As concerning therefore the eating of those things that are offered in sacrifice unto idols, we know that an idol is nothing in the world, and that there is none other God but one. For there is there I'm sorry, for though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or in earth, as there be gods many and lords many, but to us there is but one God, the Father, of whom all things, and we in him, and one Lord Jesus Christ, by whom all things, and we are all things, and we by him. Howbeit there is not in every man that knowledge. For some with conscience of the idol unto this hour eat it as a thing offered unto an idol, and their conscience being weak is defiled. But meat commendeth us not to God. For neither if we eat are we better, neither if we eat not are we worse. But take heed lest by any means this liberty of yours become a stumbling block to them that are weak." So here's what Paul is saying. As leaders, our job is to build up those around us, to encourage those around us, to love those around us. And it really isn't about us, because the antithesis of biblical love is selfishness. The opposite of the emotion love is the emotion hate. But the definition of the opposite of biblical love is selfishness. And Paul said, be real careful that you're not feeding your ego with what you know and wanting to make life all about you. He said, make sure that as a leader, you realize that you're influencing people around you, and some of them don't have the same knowledge that you have about something. They're not as spiritually acute. They haven't walked with God as long. They haven't traversed in the trials of life that bring patience like you have, and you need to be sensitive to that, and you need to be cognizant of that. And so he says in verse number 8, it's not about the meat. It's about loving your brothers. It's about being willing to limit your liberty to expand your ministry, to be able to expand your influence. And so he said, you're not more spiritual if you don't eat meat than if you eat meat. And you're not less spiritual if you eat meat and don't eat meat. It's not about the meat. It's an issue because some people's conscience are defiled by it. They're weak. They just they don't think that the backstory to this is that people would bring meat, offer it to idols, then the priests would take in the back market, sell this meat for a real discount. And so cheapskates like myself would probably be found back there buying meat at a discounted price because I think meat tastes better if it's less money. But anyway, but he's saying, you know what? Some people think, no, 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 no. This was offered to an idol. And Paul is saying, listen, the idol is nothing. It's a piece of wood. Uh, there are lots of false gods. There are lots of earthly lords. But we know there is but one God. And he is providing for us meat. And if you can eat the meat, fine. But he said the issue really comes down in verse number 9 is that, but take heed lest by any means this liberty of yours become a stumbling block to them that are weak. In other words, God said, you know what? You might have this all figured out and you might be at peace with this situation or circumstance or this topic that has become a topic of debate. You might have it all figured out, but your brother might not. And so you need to take heed that you be mindful of limiting your liberty so that you can expand your ministry and you can minister and edify that one who has a weak conscience. He just can't see how you should ever buy meat that was once offered to an idol. Well, then maybe it's best to just take the high road for the sake of your brother. And that sacrifice we call love. And so knowledge puffs up, love edifies. And so God says this people don't care about how much you know till they know how much you care. And that's the lesson for today. I hope you have a great day. I'll look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.